Okay, so I did a Halloween workshop the other day and we had lots of themes. This was a smaller set, so you can see it's quite crammed in, and it was Queen of Heart themed, based on an image I had on the wall. Now, little did I know that this would become one of the biggest themes of the night, because everyone's wanting to know how I did the edit, how I did the process. I'm sure I'll cut a video, the actual picture on the wall of the one that I shot, in here. It's an older image, but it's one that has a very fine art, painterly kind of feel. Now, I did point out to everyone on the evening that the model in the one that I was showing them had ginger hair and big curly hair, and this model had straight hair. We were doing hair flicks and other things, and so we didn't want to boost the hair so much. So there is a difference in color in the processing, but I said I will show them how I would process that image in the style of my older image. And I really did do that about 10 years ago, the other image. So I have no memory. I know I lit it the same way. No memory of how I edited it. Quite frankly, most of these tools probably didn't exist. And I was probably still on Camera Raw from Bridge. So we'll find out. So I'm going to try and be true to myself and create a fantasy fine art style image as best I can here. So first things first, let's crop out what we don't need. I am going to put a square crop and rotate and just bring her, I say central, like the whole essence of her is central because there's going to be a little bit of magic edited here. So this whole vibe is kind of central, and we'll go with this. This was a very small, very limiting set. And also where I was and the lens I was using, I couldn't even get closer. Like there was a whole thing. So we're just, we're making do. We're making this a thing. So here is the vibe. We have the detail in the hand there for where the magic's going to be. Everything's very pleasant, very, very simple. So first thing, to make it painterly, I'm going to pull my highlights down a little bit and I'm going to pull my shadows right up. Detail in the shadows is crucial. Now, I knew I had detail because I have polyboards going round the edge, so I knew that light was bouncing. If I shot this today, well, I did shoot this today, but if I shot this today and lit it today, I'd light it totally different. But the point was I was being true to my original image. So that's what we're doing here. So I would up my white balance a little bit just to get a bit of warmth, and it's a bit green. So I'm going to just kind of up on the pinks there. And what I'm going to do, we've got a red vibe. The actual image has more of a browny kind of vibe. So we're going to kind of work towards that. First thing I'm going to do is pull my vibrance down a little bit just to suck a little bit of that color out. And then coming down to my color mixer, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to suck a little bit of the color out of the red so it's a more muted red. And I am just going to play on the hue. Now, if I grab the orange, you'll see that her skin tone and most other things do move. So we don't want to be playing around with our orange. The yellow, let's just see. It's doing a little bit in the details, but it's not doing too much. I'll pull it across to the orange a little bit. And that red, I'm just going to pull across to the orange a tiny bit. We know it's red. Our eye's still telling us it's red, but just to give me a little bit more of a sort of constant vibe there. Overall, I'm quite enjoying the colouring of this already, really. Now, if I come down to my colour grading, of which I probably didn't do that much of back in the day, it probably was a lot more in Photoshop, so yeah, will be true. I'm going to lift my shadows a little bit and I'm going to lower my mid-tones. I'm going to make my mid-tones my shadows, and I'm going to, let's just play with those highlights. We're going to lift them a tiny bit. And I'm just trying to create, if I had a bit of reddy orange, a little bit more of a faded vibe. So it's got that kind of fine arty feel to it. Let's pull that saturation down a little bit. Pull that luminance up a bit. Mid-tones, okay, let's have a play because that is doing it. But if the mid-tones are a lot in where I would consider the highlights. So I'm actually going to lift them a tiny bit more here and pull my highlights down to give a more mattified, painterly look. Silly me thought my highlights were where it looked the brightest, but actually I've been proven wrong that there was more mid-tones in that area. So fine. So I'm going to pull the highlights down. We've pulled the midtones up. I don't want to play with color in that, but if we're already just like 5 minutes in, let's do a before and after. We're already getting much more. I'm just coming into the detail. Apparently I'm not. Painterly vibes coming around here. Let's come into this section. So you can see we've got much more sort of painterly strokes kind of vibes coming in. So yeah, I'm already quite happy with that. I'm not sure there's much else I want to do without being in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump over to Photoshop. I'll meet you guys there and we'll do the rest of this image, make this more of a fantasy image. So let's hop over to there now. Okay, so now I feel like really nervous because I haven't edited like this in years. I can still edit like this, but I'm trying to remember like how I would have done it back in the day. And so I'm enjoying the process, the nostalgic process of using all my like old school techniques. So first thing, let's sort this background out. Now on the original image, I don't think I had to sort any background out because I had more room and I could style the image out. I didn't have the room here. We had to make do with how we were working. I'm going to just take out a few of these creases that go vertical, but I like the texture and what's it called? The draping, drapage, drapery, whatever. So I'm just going to select the area at the top here and hit delete for content aware. And we're just going to let content aware do a lot of the work. And then we'll tweak anything we need to. So I'm going to go around here. We'll content aware that bit. I've left this area down here because I've wanted to play a little bit more. It's not too bad. Okay, now this section over here. Now, yeah, I can AI it if I want to, but I don't need to AI it. I can just content aware these sections. It's nice and easy. We can probably do that bit there and content aware that there as well. Now, this isn't the same dress I used in the original image. I think, no, I know it's not. I know it's not because I still have the original dress. It would not have fit this model because it was for a child. We did have a slight issue where it parted naturally for like the legs. So we're going to cover the legs with more tulle as that wasn't possible on the day. Down here is not done too bad. What I'm going to do is duplicate my layer, put it on 50% opacity over here, and then using my patch tool, just draw over myself just to give it a softer vibe. When you're going painterly, that's going to give it a much more painterly kind of feel anyway, because you are just softening the textures massively. I have a feeling the few people who have attempted this from the workshop are probably overcomplicating this. And I don't mean that in any kind of rude way. I mean that as in like people do that. You overcomplicate how something's done when actually it's quite simple sometimes. So I say that you might not think what I'm doing is simple. I don't know. So I'm just going to bring that bit in there. Okay, so I've softened around the edges. We've just got down here to sort out. Now I'm going to do a content aware, and I have no faith that that will work. And it didn't. I mean, it actually, I can work with that. I can work with that. I don't need to use AI here. I can just go in with my clone stamp, refine that skirt, and just edit those sections out. That really doesn't need me to force myself to use AI. I try not to rely on AI. I have no problem, by the way. Use AI, do it. It's fine. I don't care. But like I try to force myself not to. Just going to 50% layer soften these bits to match the rest of the image because I've softened everything else. But yeah, I try not to because I like to sort of have I'm a photographer, it's a photograph, I edit and do it myself kind of thing. It's for my own head. It's not really as a judgment on anyone else, but yeah, whatever. It's what I do. Okay, so now let's go down here. Should we see what content aware does on her knees? Because I think that will muck it up. Yeah, terrible. Okay, so let's do, is it remove? Would it be remove for that? Let's try remove. I mean, it's not, it can be generative fill. That would absolutely work. But I'm just curious because I am removing the knees. So it is remove, I suppose. Everything's really slow tonight. I think the internet in this building, oh no, it's going faster. Ooh, okay, just removed the existence of her knees. I mean, actually, it's not too bad, but that's terrible. Yeah, I think the internet is playing up a little bit tonight anyway. It's not wrong, and yet it's so wrong. Okay, right, let's try a different technique there. That was fun though. Let's try generative fill. I don't like generative fill at the moment. It hasn't been doing what I want. And I only use it for removing stuff. I really don't add things, do drastic stuff with it. I'm not someone who plays around with that too much. I always like to test its capabilities, see what it can do. Oh, nice. Okay, well done. That's worked. That's worked. I'm happy. Love. Yes. Okay, very happy. Let's do that. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of contour. There's nothing really I need to do on skin edit. I think we're all good. I'm just removing a few bits of makeup there. Let's add a bit of contour. Get rid of necklines. I have issues with necklines. Okay, so Control Shift N. We go to a soft light. We're going to add neutral color. Bosh. We have a grey layer. I say this in every video, so I assume you guys are sick of it, but you're probably not. And now we're going to use our burn tool on 20%, and I'm just going to draw along any area that has shadow that I want to contour and darken down a little bit more. So I'm toning down the chest sort of area here because I want to be drawn to the face, so I'm just darkening as a whole. And then I'm going to use my dodge tool just to brighten and draw on any area where I want us to catch the light. So coming here, down there, across the lip, across the eye, coming in there. Okay, that's looking nice. Now, by doing the contour like this and leaving it on, doesn't have to be 100% opacity, but leaving it on a strong opacity, you're going to get a more painterly vibe. Now, here's a big secret. Here's a big secret on how to get painterly vibes. We go in, we're going to our material, and we're going to use our dodge tool, and we're just going to draw across any bits where the way the material goes, so across those little highlighted sections. And this is going to give you such a 3D painterly vibe here. If you wish, do it on another layer to what you did the face on, and then you can choose the opacity level like to taste, for like one for clothing, one for face. But I got excited and just started drawing, so that's what I'm going with. Let's go on there. Okay, and now I'm going to do my dodge tool and darken around where I've done those streaks. The beauty is it really doesn't have to be that neat. Okay, now if I turn this off, you can see here's my doodles, bonkers. Turn it off and on, and it's just really enhanced those details in those shadows, like really nice. In fact, I think I can go a little bit more on the tool here and play a little bit in to those sections because they're really nice. Okay, loving that. I think that's really nice. Now, I have noticed, I know that this corset does this, there's a little bow section here. That's not her. The corset like bows at the back where there's sort of the boning in, and it does sort of a bit of a weird thing. So I might fix that. I'm not someone for reshaping my models. I know that dress does that because it's where it like attaches at the lace and the tool starts and it all kind of buffles like at the back, it kind of comes out. So I'm just going to go on my background layer. We'll go filter and liquify. Disk error. This happened the other day. I need to update my computer because it's doing a thing. Okay, we will fix that in a bit. We'll fix that a different way. In fact, I'll just grab the section here. Control T. Grab my little warp tool. And oh, it's not going to hold, is it? It's not going to hold my edges. So we can pull around and join my edges in there. Let's see if that's going to hold enough for me. And come on, deselect. I'm having a nightmare today. Oh yeah, there we go. It's done it. So I just need to correct those little bits. Old school way of fixing that. We don't do that anymore. We've got other ways, but Liquify was being a bit of a problem for me. Okay, so next thing I need to do is purely add the magic. I'm just lightening up on the hair a tiny bit more there. Adding a little bit of highlight where I like the highlights. Check my levels. We can bring that up a tiny bit on there. it's just one drapage just annoying me, just that bit. It's just not subtle enough. Oh, you can spend hours faffing around with that. Okay, so I'm going to go grab the magic. I'll be back in a second and we'll add the magic in. Let's do it. Hi guys, future Steph here, because my audio did not record for the last part of the video where I added the magic. That's really frustrating considering it was the point of the video. I don't know why it didn't record. The video didn't record either. Like, it didn't record me. It recorded the video of me doing the edit, but it hasn't recorded the me bit talking. So this is my attempt at a voiceover. This is my attempt at me rewatching the video and telling you what I'm doing. We are going to find out how much I remember of what I do as I go along, because I do make stuff up as I go along sometimes. So I'm going to start playing the video now and I will talk through what we're doing. So let's hit play. We have our image, we have our magic image here, and we're now going to start looking at adding the magic in. I've created some AI, partly me generated, partly me created, tweaked little versions of magic for you. So you guys have the magic to add into the images as well. So I'm going to go get them, as you'll see on the screen. I'm grabbing that in now, and this is one that looks like a little planet, which is a bit weird. But it's a little bit of magic, looks like a planet, and we're just going to resize it. I'm dragging it up and down with the transform tool, and I'm just playing with my layer mode, and it's going to be either lighten or screen. Screen gives a bit more of a glow, takes a bit more details. Lighten blocks out a lot of the, basically anything black it will make see-through. So for this instance, I'm going to use screen, but it might be lighten or screen depending on your image. It's depending on the background tones and various other things. So as you can see, I'm just resizing this now. You can have a small orb, you can have it big, you can have it however you really want to size that. It's again relevant to your image, to your subject, and just to your preference, really, to whatever you fancy it being. So you can see me playing around with the sizing here, probably rattling away different things as I'm doing it. But I have put it on just on the top layer. Now I've grabbed my background layer and I've duplicated my background layer, because what we're going to do, we're going to add a bit of glow into the background. Now we're doing this the old school way. So I'm going to hit Control U. We have our hue and saturation, and we're going to up the lightness. And we're going to up it so we can just about see a little bit of the image left. So it's almost all the way, but it's just very, very close, very, very close up there, almost all the way there. And I'm doing it the old school way because this is the way I would have done it in the original image. So that's why I'm doing it this way. There are different techniques now. So we've brightened it up, and now I'm going to hit Control B to get my color balance and warm that up. Reds, yellows, reds, yellows, reds, yellows. And what we're going to do, add a mask on top of it. Control I to invert that mask so it vanishes. And now using a brush on maybe 10%, we can just tap into it where we want the glow. So if I just tap behind, you can see that little bit of glow appearing there. And I can add more, I can add it more focused, I can add it smaller, I can add it bigger, I can add the glow wherever I want it, just to kind of incorporate that glow and that fade into the image to make it a little bit more realistic. Now, I believe at some point, I don't think that it's glowy enough and gold enough. So I click on the actual image rather than the layer. I'm playing around with the glow still, obviously. And I'm going to click on the actual image. There we go, I do that. And hit Control Alt B to reapply the same settings I applied before, the reds and the yellows. And you can see it's now made it a lot golder and it's matching that image a lot more. So you can do that as much as you want to match the colouring and find out what you need with it. That's just kind of worked. That's giving it an actual natural glow. And I've clicked on that top layer now, and I believe I am explaining what to do if you want to change the color of that. So I've hit Control U and I've pulled my saturation down. You might have it that your image isn't gold, that you've made it cooler, you've made it colder. And as long as your overlay has a black background, all these effects will work and you will be able to just tweak what you want for the add-on as much as you can. So Control U, you can change anything from your add-on. You can make it black and white, you can add more color, you can change the hue, you can do Control B and add different colors in. You can do whatever you need to do basically to make it match your image. I do it by eye because I like doing it that way, but you can figure out how it's going to match your image in the best way. So at this point, I get creative and I decide to add another element of magic in. And I'm adding it in the middle, making it a bit more like a planet. I don't know why it's a planet. It's not meant to be a planet. I think I was just in a zone at the time and I kept playing around with the sizing and faffing about with it. So we've made it more sparkly, and then I've added a bit of Gaussian blur to that layer to soften it out. So it's a little bit more like an explosion coming out from there. So, and then I'm hitting too many buttons and getting all excitable because I was playing around with different things. Already you can see the image kind of coming together. And I think one of the main things that I do in a minute is I'm going to add a vignette around the edge of the image, because then the glowy area is the bit that's being lit by the orb, and it creates a little bit more realism with the sort of final part of the image. I mean, I'm watching the video now and I'm not doing very much, so I'm not explaining much. But yeah, essentially what I'm going to do is I want to add that vignette right around the edge, and it's going to make it a lot more glowy and a lot more fun. It's definitely a unique, different sort of way of approaching it. I'm faffing around again now. But it is very old school, and it's very old school because it's just the way I would have done it back in the day. So I've just added a color lookup, which is an adjustments layer with a color lookup. And I'm looking at the Fuji, I'm looking at the Kodak, and we're looking, as we click through, it goes contrasty and then it'll go faded, contrasty, faded. And we're looking for one of the faded ones to add on top of our image, excuse me, to give me a more painterly kind of vibe. When you're going for that fine art, you're going for that painterly. It's just going to give us a little bit of a stronger painterly vibe. So I've ended up on one of my Fuji ones, and I'm going to reduce that opacity, take it down, so it's just giving a bit of a faded effect on top, which has added in that realism of the painterly kind of vibe. So I really like those effects. I don't really use them very much anymore, but when you're doing contrasty fine art where you've added contrast into the lighting, you can bring that back by using one of these quite easily, and that fade will work through the whole image. So you'll be able to see now I am just softening a few little marks on the background that were bugging me. They probably weren't bugging me on the first part of the edit, but as you go to refine an image at the end, you start analysing and you start looking at things that have annoyed you or annoying you now, because you're now looking at the final image. Always look through your images and just kind of judge, all right, yeah, okay, what irritates me? Where's my eye drawn? Where am I being pulled towards? And I'm pretty sure very, very soon, I'm going to make my decision to add my vignette. Here we go. So we're going to duplicate the layer, Control U, and I'm pulling my lightness down a reasonable amount, so it's gone darker. I'm now grabbing my select tool and I'm just grabbing a rectangle shape here, and I'm going to feather it, right click and feather. Now I'm going to feather by about 900 pixels. For you, it might be 400, it could be up to 700 to 900. It depends on your camera, depends on your file, depends on your crop, depends on a lot of things. Then going to right click on the feather. And what we're going to do is, right click on it, we've feathered it. And then I'm going to hit delete, 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 delete as many times as I want, so that I've just got that glow coming back in, and you can see that vignette. It's just created nicely around the edge. Very, very simple. And it's just added that vignette and made that glow feel a bit more realistic, really. That's kind of where it's added in. I've not done too bad. I'm looking at that final image now, and that's looking really nice. And I feel like I've remembered my process. I just don't ever remember my rambling for exactly what I've done. But hopefully this voiceover has worked, and you guys now have a good idea of how I have created the Queen of Hearts, as we have named her. So I hope this has been incredibly helpful, and I will see you guys next time.